goes from where the Texas, Alabama, Arkansas, and Georgia troops started their attack from over through those trees and attacked into this position. Okay, and to remind you, you have Arkansas and Texas troops who will try to stick with the Emmitsburg Road and then go off on their own, and they will end up attacking the triangular field and the woods beyond it called Rose Woods. So in other words, you have the 1st Texas and 3rd Arkansas attacking in that direction, and you have nobody here. And you have the rest of the Texas Brigade and the Alabamians go around all the way to the top of Big Round Top, some of them, down the other side and attack toward Little Round Top. But this is a pretty big gap between them. So, when the Southerners reach the approximate vicinity of the Slider Farm, which some of you can see right behind me about 300 yards, you see it? Slider House, which by the way was General Lee's headquarters in the Gettysburg movie. They put an outhouse over the monument that's there, which is pretty cool. And we have pictures of dead plastic horses out in that field. That's kind of cool. When the Southerners reached the vicinity of that area, what Evander M. Law did was take his rightmost regiments, the ones who would have been on the other side of Big Round Top, stopped them, waited for the rest of the brigade to pass, and he redirected those troops from the Slider Farm toward Devil's Den specifically to silence some of the cannon on top of the hill. There were 4 Union guns on top of the hill, okay, and 2 behind it. And specifically, these guys were supposedly detached to capture those cannons. Later, Evander M. Law, who we have no evidence exerted any divisional command during this whole attack, later said that he threw these troops or other Georgia troops into the gap. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but what you end up happening then is Texas and Arkansas troops attacking there, Alabama troops attacking here, and then the rest of the Alabamians attacking in that direction. Does that make sense? Union line is going to go to near where those cannons are up there, although they're not in the right spot, and then it's going to continue into the woods toward the wheat field 400 yards beyond. So you have a Union line like that, and you have Confederates attacking from there, and there, and there. Not really good for the Union troops. The Union commander of the cannon up there is really concerned for the safety of his guns. His name's James E. Smith, and we'll be talking about him when we get up there. His commanding officer, as well as the commanding officer of all the artillery here, figured he would probably lose his guns if the Confederates attacked here. It's indefensible. He's on a ridge. It took him an hour or 2 to get his guns into position. It's really rocky there. So he was concerned about it, and long story short, was able to convince the brigade commander, Ward, to send a regiment down into the Valley of Death. Okay, it wasn't called the Valley of Death yet. In fact, that regiment supposedly would christen the Valley of Death, the first one to suffer casualties down there, the 4th Maine. Oh, yeah. Henry L. Benning has his troops show up to really plug the gap. There's a small gap between the Texans and the Alabamians here. There's more gaps going on between the Alabamians over there. Henry Benning shows up as a concerted line, and in a way, kind of takes command of the Confederate attack once he arrives on the scene, because he's the only one that has his brigade together. Okay? He will lend his weight to the Confederate attack, and the Yankee reinforcements will not be able to match that. Overall, what happens is, the Yankees are on Devil's Den, they get pushed off the top, they recapture the top, the Confederates take it back. That's really the fight for Devil's Den, which lasts about an hour. Everything we're going to talk about today was pretty quick.
Thousands of Southerners charged out of that ridge line at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on July 2nd. Their line extended along that ridge line as far as you see where the trees are located. About 2,000 men from Alabama and Texas came across the open fields, went up and over Big Round Top, and attacked Little Round Top. Eventually, there were 3,000 Northerners on that hill, Little Round Top. So there were 5,000 men fighting over there. During the battle, there were about 2,000 Northern soldiers on top of the rocks and in the valley here at Devil's End, and 3,000 Southerners attacked this area. There were 10,000 men involved in the fighting in this small area around us on the 2nd day of the battle. So this is probably not the place to be standing during the fighting. During the fighting, the Southern Army captured Devil's Den. They drove the Northern Army back, but the Southern Army would not capture Little Round Top. And of course, it was important that that hill held.